Ooh. What is going on, guys? This is the Cloud9 podcast, season 3, episode 19. Actually, it's crazy. I normally don't do these twice a week, but last week the LCS took a week off, and then I was like, we already talked to each other. I was like, wait a minute, I can just have another episode this week, and then there's TSM drama now. Apparently, TSM and drama, no more iconic duo. Holy,
they go together.
So before we get into the TSM drama of the episode today for the Cloud9 podcast, what is your name and how did you get into playing and watching League of Legends, actually?
Well, my name is Michael Termini. I work at the Game House. We do LCS interviews and articles and all sorts of stuff. You might see our work around. But I got into League of Legends when I was like 13 years old. I think it was season 4. So essentially, like almost half of my life, I've been playing League. So I've been a fan forever. I really wasn't into League esports for the longest time. I was into Smash. And I love Team Liquid and Smash Brothers. I love Chillin' Dude. And I just started watching one day on Twitch. I was like, oh, you know what? There's nothing to watch Smash related. And I saw Team Liquid was playing. And it was the finals of, I want to say 2018 for the LCS. So I just put it on. And from then on, I was hooked, and I just started watching League like nonstop. And it was a great time.
So when Team Liquid first won their first title, that was back in 2018 spring.
Yeah, it was 18 spring, yeah.
That was season 8, actually. Yep. Yeah. That's crazy back then. The 100 Thieves first joined the league and everything, and they made it to the finals, even though they faced Clutch Gaming in their round. Cloud9 and Echo Fox were like the best teams that split, but then Cloud9 just started having so many issues, And then Echo Fox was actually a strong team that split. People forget that was Huni's last good year, actually.
Oh, that's a take I disagree with as well.
Really?
I think Huni was amazing on Clutch.
I
think he was
really?
I think he was great on 2019 Clutch. I think he was a really, really good player that year. And I mean, the team sucked for half the year, but when they needed him at the end, he showed up. And heck, man, he even did decent at Worlds, at least in play-ins.
Because I think people nowadays kind of like forget he was like one of the best top laners in North America for quite some time.
Huni is one of the greatest of all time, and I will fight anyone to the death for that. He's a great player. I love him. I got to be honest, because it's hard to separate the art from the artist here. Like when he's there, and this split, he hasn't been performing all too great, but I don't really think he was the liability that a lot of people have been making him out to be. When the entirety of TSM seems to have issues, I think he's kind of got unfairly flamed for like the last essentially 2 years. And I do pity him with his wrist issues. It's a crappy way to go out. No one wants to go out that way, but I hope he does good coaching, because I think he has the personality for it. He's apparently incredibly likable. Everyone seems to love working with him. So I really do wish him the best still.
So covering League of Legends, generally you do player interviews, right?
Yeah, generally, yeah.
So how do you get those, actually? Because people would go like, it's hard to get into the esports scenes because everyone's super just close-knit already. So a new person breaking in is going to be like overwhelmed by, okay, what do I do to get in? Then if you talk to certain people on Twitter, they either ignore you or they just flat out just say no. So how does a person go about even entering into the esports scene in general when it comes to League?
So I'll be honest, I got really lucky, and I'll be the first to concede that. And you know what, man, I'd rather be lucky than have skill, And so I just randomly made a video one day on CLG. And at the time, the place where I work at, the Game House, was looking for writers for every team, essentially. So the way that they kind of divvied it was, there's an EG person, there's a TSM person, there's a Cloud9 person, something like that. And it just so happened that they were looking for someone for CLG. I ended up choosing EG because I'm like, I really don't want to cover CLG, but it was their it was about their like lock-in team last year, which was just like this amalgamation of random players because they didn't have all their people there. So they had like Solo up in the top lane. I forget who they had.
Wiggly,
Wiggly, yes.
Bristling.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was like the weirdest roster. And I was just like, oh, it's interesting. I'm going to make a video on it. And so I posted it on Reddit. I got a message and he's like, hey, look, we're doing this. We're looking for someone. And I was like, all right, cool. So I just started off writing articles. I got pretty close with the, head honchos at the Game House. We started playing League together, started talking a lot. And eventually he was just like, I was like, hey, I noticed you guys, I know you have LCS press access. no one's really actively doing it every weekend. I was like, you know, if you want someone, I'm willing to do it. And essentially the way that you get that sort of access to begin with is you have to be, it's hard because you can be an independent personality, but it bumps your chances if you're like some sort of organization.
Would you say it's better to have a website actually?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're writing and you're doing something like that, yeah, a group is better than an individual for sure. I honestly, Travis is like the only person who gets individual access. He is certainly special in that regard.
Because for my main YouTube channel, I was trying to ask people, what is the main goal of having a website? Actually, people say, well, organizations and other companies look to content creators to have websites more than their own YouTube channels. Actually, now I never understood why though. Like,
I don't know why.
Are they driving more traffic? Do they see that as more of a professional thing? Is you have a website?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think you know, like a YouTube, like generally like an LCS YouTube video, if it does over like a couple thousand views for like an interview, is really good. Like I'm even just breaking over the 1K barrier. Like you can have like, unless you're like Travis or someone who gets like a couple thousand views, even on like, I don't want to say a lower end player because that's really unfair and like kind of bullying them, but like, you know what I mean?
A player who's relatively not as popular.
Yeah. Right? So if you're if you're interviewing like someone on Immortals versus interviewing someone on TSM, you know, like there's going to be a difference in viewership there just because innately there's not as many people interested. Ironically, some of my favorite interviews are from the smaller players, but you know, it is what it is. Cause I think a lot of them are looking to get their name out there more, but they don't get these opportunities from these bigger news outlets. And I think that's a bit sad.
And I think that also goes with team content as well. Like, this TSM Legends style of content. I remember watching that when I first started watching League of Legends back in like season 4, season 5. Season 5 was my official first year with LCS because season 4 is when I first started. My first League of Legends thing I ever watched was Worlds 2014. I don't know what anything was. It was all just so amazing. So it's like Cloud9 is battling to get out of this hard group. TSM getting out of their only group stage ever at Worlds, which is crazy. Now it's 8 years later. Then LMQ, which is not existing anymore. Then before 2015, I went back and learned the history of the LCS and a lot of the players and a lot of personalities. Like, okay, this is really interesting. I'm gonna follow this. Then I thought it was just LCS actually. EU LCS would come on, and I'm like, okay, what's this? I didn't know anything about EU LCS actually. Learned all the history about that. Unicorns of Love versus Fnatic. That was one of the big rivalries back then. The LCK. That's when T1 SKT back in the day were called SKT versus CJ Entis. Those were like super hyped games. The LPL was weird back in the day when I first watched. Like, okay, I just didn't know any of these players. The LPL was like, okay, I know EDG and I know Uzi. And I remember Uzi joining that OMG super team and just completely failing. That's all I remember.
Super teams never work. What can I say?
Right, and then I've been watching ever since. You know, going to that first MSI event when EDG beat SKT with that Morgana pick. Oh my god, that was so hyped. And the thing that I miss about League of Legends content with the LCS is like if you're bringing in a player that is not well known, doing those TSM Legend style videos, those would actually help me understood who this player is, what this player is standing for in League of Legends in terms of like where they came from, what their goals are. You know, those TSM Legends episodes back in the day when they would do them with players like Hanser, who came off of Gravity, no one really knew who he was. Those are really helpful, and the teams just don't do that kind of content anymore because people say it's not about it's about the views. Well, I don't know if you feel the same way, but a person who doesn't do content creation saying the views aren't that good, I think it's very disingenuous. I feel like getting certain amount of views is good in general for the scene. Like just getting the content out there is going to be a lot more beneficial than looking at a number, because anyone that just looks at an arbitrary number as if they state the content is good is already looking at it from the wrong point of view. It's like, was the video good? Was it presented well? Did it do what it needed to do? Did it give you the holistic story of this player? And I feel like personally for me, the community goes, the views aren't that good. Then we're never going to get good content then because So
I agree with you mostly on that. I think there is a certain reality though, like teams can't, I mean, certain teams feel like they have unlimited money, but like, I mean, like frankly, like, I mean, I don't know if a team like Immortals is going to be able to produce the same quality content that, you know, Team Liquid does with Squad, you know, like, you know, and it's not just to pick on Immortals, like FlyQuest. I think they actually do a pretty good job with it. But like, you know, Dignitas, these smaller orgs that don't have as much money Golden Guardians. Like it's a little bit unfair to put those expectations on them. But I think like FlyQuest actually is an org that does it pretty well. With having a relatively smaller budget. Like I think they do a really good job in hyping up their players. They do a great job appealing to their audience. They do a great job with branding. And I think they actually tell the stories pretty well. Like I remember when Takui got signed at the beginning of the year, they actually reached out to press outlets and they were like, we want you and Jose Dioto, Takui, and you to go and do an interview, like a group style interview about, him coming on into the LCS, how they found each other, how they actually knew each other before the LCS split started. So like FlyQuest doesn't actually like want their message to get out. I never see those messages from any other org. And I think that's sad.
And that's when FlyQuest was under, Trisha as well. She really drove the brand because people don't remember back in the day. I remember when FlyQuest first came in. Came in. Oh God, the Balls Elimination High roster that wasn't even good, but only did well because teams with the better players were just completely just like shitting the bed. Then in Summer Split, when those teams, the better players are doing better, they obviously looked worse. And later on, they started shuffling all these rosters. They were a middle of the pack team, but they actually had better placings in the past. Sometimes they would get like 4th place randomly in splits that you didn't think they would. Now they're just more of a middle of the pack team. They're going to be usually like always a 6th to 4th place roster peak max. Do you think FlyQuest could ever like actually win a trophy? They got close in 2020.
I think 2020 shows that egos can get in the way of anything. I think a lot of people underestimated a lot of those players on that team. I think a lot of those players were coming off pretty low lows when they got onto that FlyQuest roster and were able to turn it around. You look at every player on that team is, in my opinion, still good. And I will defend that. I think Ignar is spectacular. I think he's one of the best supports in NA. Unfortunately, he's on Immortals. Tragic twist of fate. I don't even think Wild Turtle played that bad in the spring. I don't think he was terrible. I think he had a terrible support.
You know what I felt like too? Like he didn't play that bad. Honestly.
No, I don't think he played bad either. I think he was perfectly respectable, but then you're also having him split time with Arrow, and then you also have a terrible support. It was a setup for failure, frankly.
I think players like Wild Turtle, who are now more hated for just random reasons, because he's
hated for his age.
Yeah,
Wild Turtle's unironically.
Like seeing the videos he's been a part of, he also seems like a pretty cool dude.
He's insanely nice. Nice.
I think people just generally can't get past he's an NA80 carry who hasn't won in so long, and he's not been that good. So they go like, why you have this old man here still playing? But if he's not bad, then there's no real reason with it. There's no actual problem. They're like with Apollo and Haku. Remember, we don't have Apollo and Haku anymore. They were always a pretty solid bot lane, but people just kept flaming them. It's like, how can any org take on some of these players that aren't even that bad, who are pretty serviceable? Because on certain rosters, you still need serviceable players. You don't always need superstars,
there has to be a team player, and there has to be people who are willing to, sacrifice resources. There has to be people who are willing to, play for the team. And I like, to me, that was 2020 FlyQuest summed up. Like, even like people flame Power of Evil now, and I think a little bit rightfully so, but like Power of Evil in 2020 was playing incredibly well. Even in 2021, he was all right.
I thought 2021 he looked great on.
Yeah, I think he was fine on TSM. And so like that 2020 FlyQuest roster was a thing of beauty. Solo is one of my favorite players of all time. I think he's so slept on. I'm so happy to see him back.
Remember that split on Echo Fox in the summer? He was like actually playing well, and he was like one of the best top laners in the league. But he was on Echo Fox. It always happens.
He has the most unlucky like timing with any org. I feel so bad for him because like I honestly, coming off that year where he turned a terrible top lane situation into a good one on that FlyQuest team. And then he didn't get signed for 2021 besides like a minor contract with CLG.
For a lock-in tournament.
Yeah, then he got picked up by Golden Guardians and then replaced with Licorice. Like, I feel so bad for the guy. And I'm so happy to see him back on TSM Academy because like he is unironically still really good. I kind of agree with you, but I also think TSM does not give a shit at this point.
You don't think they need a veteranship leader right now?
I don't think they care about this split, if you want me to be perfectly honest. I think these coaches are all gone next year. I think the entire fucking staff is going to be gutted.
I've seen like I've been around the league scene, and I know TSM, and they change people out when they don't get the results. They always change something out.
Well, I don't think the coaches deserve to stay, frankly, after the shit show this year.
Because they have Chawi and K's, right?
Yeah. they're both gone. I think they're
You know what's really suspect, dude, is when you have coaches from TSM tweet stuff and then delete it within like 5 minutes. That is really, really suspect. It's like, like then you have people on Reddit, you have whoever that person tweeted that out on Reddit. Like, I think people may have overreacted a little bit on it, but I can understand the community sentiment of it, you know? But TSM hasn't done themselves no favors when trying to garner sympathy. It's like some TSM fans who just like TSM just to like them because that's their team they support in LCS. They're like, why is TSM so hated? You have to kind of look back at the history about why they're hated, honestly.
TSM deserves hate, but I also feel like they get more flame than necessary at points. And look, I'll defend them when I think that's the case, but this whole year, it feels really hard to defend this org. Yeah. And like, I'm not a TSM fan. I'll be honest, team I root for is EG. I've been an EG fan since 2020. When they first came back into the league. Yeah, I love Bang. I could talk, and then he went to Afrika, who's my favorite Korean team. Like, it was awesome. So it worked out, but then he sucked on there. It was, you know, whatever. It's a mess. But like, I love EG, and like, I don't hate TSM. I don't really hate any org in the LCS. I kind of dislike Dignitas and Immortals a bit because I just feel like they bring absolutely nothing to the league. So I dislike them in that way, but I don't like dislike the players. I don't dislike the coaches. I don't like not.
Yeah, you just there's no ill will. The org's taking.
Yeah, there's no ill will. Like I have no ill will towards any player in the league or like stuff like that. You know, I don't. It's just not. It's not worth the effort. You know. But it's just it's interesting because I don't like the way that those orgs are going more than anything.
Because we talked about it on the show, those orgs can actually be a benefit to the league if they really try. All they have to do, if they want to bring up NA talent, because a lot of these orgs, they don't want to shell out the money for a high profile import that could be worth a lot of money on the contract you're going to buy the player out for. Why don't they bring up the NA prospects? And if those prospects are actually good, either you keep them, you build the roster around them, or you sell them to the other orgs who will definitely pay top dollar for a native good NA player. So that way they don't have to use an import setup. You just have a native good player. They could actually bring benefit to the league, but it feels like they just only do well enough that people expect them to be like 6th, 7th place for them is good enough for them throughout the year. That's 2 splits, and they only really shoot for like 7th place, or they might look out and get a roster.
And I think the most frustrating part is that I think there's elements of those orgs that actually end up working really well. Like for Dignitas, I think their academy coach Deos is incredibly good. I think he is unironically an LCS starting head coach. And like it's sad to see that like. He's actually just joined Dignitas this year, but so I'm kind of hoping. But like there are like it's a good example of, you know, there's people or there's players or there's coaches or there's staff in these orgs that end up doing really well. Even like Immortals last year, I think Immortals actually has done a decent job with academy. I don't think they've done an amazing job, but I think in the past 2 years they've actually they've done some actual talent development. And you know, like say what you will, but I think that's good. Dignitas Academy, I think roster-wise is a bit of a meme, but like it's like I don't know. I want to see more of that. And
do you feel like Academy is I wouldn't say a meme, but do you think people fake to care about it more than they actually do?
I think you know what? You want me to be perfectly honest? Every single person who covers LCS media does not give a damn about Academy, and don't let them tell you otherwise. And I think it's an absolute shame. And let me point a perfect example.
Yeah, go
Proving
ahead.
Grounds. Or Scouting Grounds. Sorry, not Proving Grounds. It was last year. They were doing it. Every single person had press access. We were the only outlet who showed up. The only outlet who showed up.
Probably the only guys cheering in the audience too.
No, we weren't in the audience, but like we showed up for Zoom calls and stuff, and we interviewed some of these players.
Oh, might be said last year. Yes, they weren't allowing people in. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm not in LA. I'm in Washington. I ain't going down to LA for an interview. That's way too much.
What?
Way too much money, man.
You gotta sprint down here, man. What are you talking about?
It's too expensive. No, I would love to go out. It's just, hey, you know, money's
money.
Thing. Yeah. But but no, like it's sad because like that's the opportunity to get them and network with these young players, and talk to these guys. Like it's funny because like when I did like and these younger players, they are so much more likely to reach out and network with people. Like I did here's a story about Jojo Piyun. I did a top 5 players going academy prospects to look out going into 2022. This was before all the rosters were announced. And I put Jojo Piyun on that list, and I put a photo of him that I found, and he was like, yo, can you take down that photo? I really don't like it. He slid into my DMs on Twitter. I'm like, all right, man, I'll take it down. And then once he won LCS, I shot him a DM back. I'm like, you went from not wanting your face out there to being the literal face of the LCS. And then he said, laughing my ass off. I appreciate it.
See, I can agree with that. Triple, who is the CLG mid laner.
Yep.
I contacted him when he was on FlyQuest. The video's still on the channel, actually. If people go back and look. I contacted Triple. I was like, hey, man, you want to, just talk to me? Because I was trying to get LCS player interviews. I only got, I actually kept getting 2. I ended up getting a Lorem on. He's been on the show a few times.
I love
ended up getting Triple on. Yeah, like generally the Academy players, will come on. I have been said no to by not so good Academy players, but it happens. You get rejected. It's just, it happens. It stings. It hurts. It hurts. A lower end Academy player saying, I don't want to do this. It still hurts. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, to be honest, like, I feel bad at points when, especially like after a loss or something, bringing people on for like an interview or something. Like I interviewed Lost last weekend. I didn't have the heart to release it because it was so depressing. And it was so clear he was upset. And I just was like, I don't want to paint this guy out to be like a terrible person, or just like paint him out to be like some sort of villain. And I was like, oh, he's like so clearly passionate. And like, hey, look, say what you will about Lost Play, but he's a really nice guy and he's really caring and he wants to win.
It's crazy for a story.
It's shitty because it's like it's weird because like when you know people on a personal level or not even a personal level, but you've just met them and you talk to them, you start to realize like it's easy when you like look at it back as like a chess game with pieces where you just move people around. But once you actually start to get into like the human aspect of stuff, it becomes really hard for me to be like, yeah, Lost is absolute trash. I want him off Immortals. He's tanking the bot lane. It's like, no, like I hope he turns it around. I want him to do well,
No, dude, I can agree with you. When because I know Triple was on Mammoth. He went to Worlds. He was on FlyQuest Academy.
And then he went into FlyQuest for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. When he got a chance to play on the stage and he beat Cloud9 and TSM, this one FlyQuest was being at the shitter is an absolute understatement. They were absolutely just garbage. When he got a chance to win against TSM and C9 that week, I was so happy for him. I was like, man, that guy's doing it finally. And then they lost one game and they switched him. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. That is just I hate when that happens, though. They want to teams who are at the bottom who are struggling. They'll switch up one player. They'll actually get the wins. They'll pull off upsets those weeks, and then they'll lose the next week because the teams that are actually better than them, they'll figure out, okay, this team's actually not that good. We can tackle them at certain places. That team that had those upsets the previous week, they lose, and that player who did those upsets goes back to Academy. It's like, then what's the point of doing this? Remember when Alorlo came in for Dignitas, I think it was last year, got them some crucial wins they needed, and then got subbed out. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of players like that. Like that's the solo example that I brought up earlier. That's a great example you just brought up as well. It's sad, like, because you see these players finally get their chance, and then they just tank it, they actually do well, and then they just get nothing as a reward.
Is that how people are result-based analysis? One game? I pulled off upsets. I don't know.
I wonder if it's that, and I wonder how much of it is we were just testing something out to begin with, and they really
just you wanted to change up the environment.
Yeah,
because it was going that bad.
Or it's like what Cloud9 did in, was it 2018 when they swapped Golden Blue and Jensen, like some sort of motivation thing. Like, and it's easy to sit and play armchair analyst and it's fun too. But it's also like you don't know what's going on inside of these team environments. So it could be I think that was probably a case of, hey, we're just gonna play we're gonna play till you guys lose. And we're going to just see what happens. We're going to try a weekend, see what happens. And they lost one game and they're like, all right, experiment over. Now we know what a little bit of GMing for next year. Maybe we can make something here. We showed off some players' work. Maybe we could make some trade bait for the next year off of it and do something with that. I wonder how much of that's it and some motivation thing. And you look at like a player like Jose Dioto, who was like pretty much in Academy for like the rest of the year. He came back in the 2022, I think, with a vengeance, and I ranked him.
I think he's actually played good.
Yeah, I ranked him going into the year as the worst jungler in the LCS, and I will say I was wrong.
I mean,
I had no faith in him.
And you were wrong at that point of view, because last year he was pretty bad.
Yeah, and I had zero. I felt like they were only keeping him for the fan base that he had, and which again, if you want to argue, it's fine because of you know, like you got to market your brand. But like I was like, oh, it feels like they're tanking, and but then he came out and played really well, and I ate my words. I was like, you know what, Jose Dioto, you impressed me. Yeah, I was wrong.
And that's the thing. I like when players do that. Like if you're really down on a player and they prove you wrong, that's the best thing, because I don't want them to be bad. I don't want I don't want anyone to have a bad split, because as people know, if you've been watching League of Legends for any region for a long time, you have one bad split, your career could be essentially over for the next 2 to 3 years. You'll be either stuck streaming, stuck playing an academy. Potentially, we've seen players go play different games for a long time because they don't get LCS spots. Because even Sven talked about it too. They actually asked him, "What do you do on academy if you're playing on there?" He's like, "No, we just we scrim, we play solo queue, and it's pretty chill. That's it. Nothing else." Yeah, he said that's literally you just play games. You sometimes scrim with the main team, and that's it. It's like at a certain point that can be kind of demotivating because no one's watching academy. You're most likely only going to get a chance if the other team is just doing that bad.
Yeah,
you know. So.
Or you have like some sort of situation with like an import thing that's going on, or some sort of unforeseen circumstance like an injury or, you know, some sickness or something like that. And that happens. Like look at the LCK last split with COVID. There were players that you've never heard of coming up from Challengers League and then playing like 3 sub freaking Nongshim versus T1. It's like, oh, I wonder who's going to win. It's like, it was an absolute joke. And then, so it's like stuff like that happens. And these guys come out completely uncoordinated because they've never scrimmed with their main players. And they have like an hour. They got like the notice an hour ago. They're like, oh, fuck, they got to run it to the studio.
Then fans, they see just the one random match you play. And then all your whole career is based off that one match. If you do one thing bad, or even just that, losing the game is even worse because your career is essentially over.
I think there's a lot of players that I can even point to that. Like I think King on Cloud9 last year when he got subbed in briefly instead of Sven. Like I think King is still a really solid ADC. And even at the beginning
with him actually.
Maybe even at the beginning of this split, I think he took way too much blame for those 3 losses. Like way too much. He had an error. He look, don't get me wrong, he didn't play great. But Jesus Christ, the amount of cope from C9 fans to say it was entirely the bot lane, like come on. Like it's delusional. And anyone who actually like knows League will tell you that, you know.
Do you think that he'll get a starting spot on a roster going into?
I don't think he's ever going to get a starting spot, sadly. I think there's
based off these 2 bad summer splits.
I think there's too many decent ADCs actually. I think NA unironically produces some pretty good ADCs. I know a lot of people would say that's a bit of a meme, but like I genuinely think we do. I think there's a lot of decent ADCs that have been floating around for a while who haven't got a chance to look at Prismal. Is a great example. Who he just role swapped
Kaori on EG Academy.
But he's from Turkey. To be fair, but yes, he got taken from.
I count them as an answer here. If you're ours, you're ours.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, no, but no. Kaori is a great example of another player. Actually, here's a fun fact. Here's some juicy lore. I don't know if I've ever said this on a show before, but multiple teams were trying to get him at the beginning of the year. It wasn't just EG who was trying to grab this guy from a random Turkish team who didn't really perform that well on paper. So apparently it was like 3 or 4 teams were looking at him, which is pretty cool. So yeah, no, he is a player that I think a lot of people have their eyes on for possibly next year.
What about Wixie? What do you think about him?
I love Wixie. Wixie and Busio, I think, are an insanely good bot lane. Like I love in terms of sports. Busio, I think, is one of the best in Academy. I'm really bullish on him, and I really want to see him on a team. So like I think NA does a good job with ADCs. I think our weakest spot right now is top. Some people would disagree. I don't think mid is as bad as a lot of people want to make it out to be.
Actually, I would say
I think it's support. Supports are.
I would say jungle's always kind of held the region back. Like if you see international gameplay, like if at MSI and Worlds all the time, it's always the junglers that always get out gapped by this region specifically. Like people gotta factor in jungle has such an influential role on the map, even sometimes more than support. You know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But what I would counter that with is I think NA has a lot of decent junglers, and I think we actually have had some world-class junglers in the past. And then we just have like a couple missing links. I think support has been historically weak because I think in a lot of years we've only had like 2 or 3 good supports. and then like maybe one or two of those are elite, and then the rest were kind of eh. Meanwhile, with jungle, we had like, you know, I would say like 3 or 4 like goods, like 4, like probably like 1 to 5 goods, like junglers, and then like 2 to 3 elite. So like I think there's like, when I look at like Inspired, or I look at Smithy in the past, you know, like I look at these people who have performed well on the international stage, Blabber, Svenskeren. I don't think they were really gapped by the jungler. I think like when I look at these series, I'm like, it really all depends the role. Like I think
also depends on the meta sometimes too. Yeah, because when you go to MSI especially. And Worlds, like last MSI, Blabber had to play Morgana and Rumble jungle.
Yeah, don't get me
the guy who plays Olaf and Hecarim.
Yes,
Blabber Scuttlecraft. Oh, that was so hilarious. Those names were hilarious.
And they're riding that still for the brand, and I love it. But like it's like, no, stuff like that. It's like it's hard to like say which is the most disappointing on an international level, because there are so many factors that go in with that. Like some tournaments just have super stacked mid lanes. Like this last MSI, Jojo Pune, Faker, blanking on Xiaohu, thank you. It was a stupid caps. It was a stupidly good mid lane.
Yeah, and I think people have to understand, like sometimes it's not even just these players might even be bad. They just aren't good compared to these guys, because that's how traditional sports works. Like in traditional sports, you could have a really good underdog roster, but at a certain point, if you face someone that's just better than you pound for pound, you're just gonna lose.
Cincinnati versus Bama. You know, like that's literally what that was. You know, it was like you have a group of 5 team, you know, like, and then they just get their ass kicked. It's not that they're bad. They won the group of 5 for a reason. They went undefeated in the American for a reason, and then they just get blown out when they play like an actual, you know, powerhouse team. And
yeah, because I think a lot of fans don't understand. Like, okay, at MSI this year, I'll just use that as an example.
Yeah,
like people are like, "Oh my god, EG lost to G2 6 times." Caps versus Jojo Pion. I mean, Yankos versus Inspired. That's actually pretty even. Impact played well against Broken Blade.
I think Impact played really well. Yeah,
I think Impact played Broken Blade. Yeah, he played really well.
Impact and Inspired were the MVPs of the tournament for me.
Flakkid and Targamas actually stepped up a lot at MSI. Yeah, and like that's the thing. I don't think Danny and Vulcan are bad.
No,
but Targamas and Flakkid are just a tiny bit better at this moment. Because some people have to understand this was his team's first international event together. Jojo Pion's 17 years old, right? Yeah, he's 17. He's going up against Faker. If anyone thought he was gonna be Faker because he was trash talking, guys, you have to separate trash talk from actual game. If you thought,
the G2 fans who are getting mad at that are so cringe, dude. It's so good for the game. Shit talk, and then like they were like, oh, you're gonna eat your words now. I hope you learned your lesson. It's like, shut the fuck up. It's
like anyone thinking going in he was actually going to beat Faker, just even in CS, is insane. Like these guys, some of these LPL and LCK players, I started to tell people that they're just better. So you have to kind of beat them in other ways. Maybe you pick a random champion in draft they aren't expecting for. Maybe you path a certain way as a jungler. They can't beat these players straight up in mechanics anymore. Because even just looking at these last past events, from Worlds 2020, it was NA and EU facing off against Korea and China, 3-0 sweeps. Mad Lion versus DK, 3-0. NA versus Genji, 3-0. The NA Cloud9 versus Genji one, you can say it was a bit closer to some of the games, but still 3-0.
Yeah, it was absolutely closer, but it doesn't really matter because
it's still a 3-0.
Yes,
then this year, in EG versus RNG, 3-0.
Absolutely closer as well than the T1 G2 series, but G2 still like
T1 3-0. Like, is it because everyone kept saying the gap was closing, man? But if you look at some of these events, I don't think the gap ever closed really. I think
it did though. I'm gonna be a contrarian to that. I think the gap did close.
Now it only closed because Korea and China technically weren't as good at playing that meta for those tournaments. Actually,
possibly. I think when you look back at 2018 and 2019, I think the gap did close during those years. I think a lot of these teams came up, showed up, and they put a lot of these overly cocky teams in their place. I think if you want to be honest, that's probably the biggest thing that's changed. I think these teams no longer look at a team like G2 and they're like, oh, free win. Because they got their ass handed to them in 2018 and 2019. They got humbled. They got told to sit the fuck down. and so now they're like, all right, Now we see you. We see you. TL. We IG. We see you. Now.
Yeah,
like
yeah. They're not gonna go into the game with oh my goodness,
or even like Afrika Cloud9. Like
yeah.
That it's Afrika's only thing they've ever done internationally is lose to Cloud9. Like,
because people like Afrika's made LCK finals before. They just gotten their asses handed to them every single time.
It's so being a Afrika fan. Is
and
such
now with
misery.
this Kwangdong Freaks roster, they're not making any finals.
Don't talk about it.
My boy Teddy's struggling out there.
We're gonna make the fourth miracle spot run.
Why does my boy Keen and my boy Teddy just stay on those rosters?
We got rid of Lahens. We got rid of Lahens and we got Hoyt.
The fact that Afrika Freaks were playing Fly at some
last
point
year was so much fun though. That was such a fun roster. I loved last year's roster. Every game was so exciting.
Did you see T1 versus Gen G?
I actually did not watch that series.
Okay.
I'll be honest. Yeah.
Are you behind on LCK BO5s actually? Or, sorry,
I'm a little bit like I've been keeping up with the scores. I've been watching some highlights when I can, but unironically, it's just so hard to watch. Like I have
every
a full-time job. I
Same here,
try watching every LCS game.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to watch more. I watch the LCK series that matter to me, which is pretty much just Kwangdong games, and then I watch like an occasional T1 game. But it's hard to stay up, man.
Yeah, I agree because like by the time I'm going to work, I can catch an LCK BO3, one of them. Then I got to go to bed. Oh, it's too late because I work. And then when the games are playing, on my break, I'll watch the game. Then I'll come home, watch the rest of the games. Then that's for mostly EU because EU plays on my job. Yeah. Then when I come home, I'm watching LCS. I'm watching all the games I missed. And I'm watching the games live. Then I'll watch LPL games. And I'll watch LCK games because later on when we get to Worlds, people want to know what is your accurate opinion on these teams. And I feel like if you're going to talk about Worlds, if you haven't watched the teams, has that happened to you before?
Yes. Yeah.
People who haven't watched teams make a bullshit statements about these teams, and then they're wrong. And they're like, I didn't know that was possible. You didn't watch the teams. You didn't even know what the hell was going on.
Yeah, there's like the way that we do things at TGH is that we have like an LPL person, named JJ. And like whenever, I got to just talk to them, right? About like LPL stuff. And then I last year did all the LCK stuff. They also watched the LCK. So we kind of went back and forth on a couple things, argued over a few things, but yeah, they're mostly an Eastern team watcher. So like, it's good to have people like that to, reference when you don't know something. And like, instead of just being the person who just looks up their stats briefly on Oracle's Elixir or like something like that. Like I'm not an expert on the LEC. I'll be the first to concede it. I try to watch a couple games and I do watch actually probably more LEC than LCK, but I keep up and I follow LCK stats. I follow, a lot of that stuff way more. And so I feel like I'm much more knowledgeable about the LCK as a result than I am about the LEC. I could tell you about the coaches. I could tell you about the players. I could tell you about their history. I could tell you about all that. LEC, I really don't care, frankly. It's just not fun to me. I enjoy it. So it's like a lot of that is just like, it's good to have people to talk to about that. So you're not making these bullshit claims. So you actually get some knowledge about some sort of things.
To hear people talk about some of these Worlds teams these past years has been god awful.
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny.
The way people overrated FPX. Like I understand if you watch the LPL split, you would say like, okay, they could do very well this tournament. But I think people have to understand because you watched the LCK back in the day too. Remember, the reason why SKT were power ranked to win the event wasn't just because they had some of the best players in the world. They actually won the event. That's a bit different. FPX hadn't actually won anything. Doinby, yes, was the MVP of that split. He actually was. He played really well. He was amazing.
Yeah.
But in those finals, FPX actually got destroyed. But people say, well, they're previous world champion. What does that matter? That doesn't make anything to this year because people are actuating success to a previous year that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
To a team that hadn't actually even won domestic trophies. They hadn't won any domestic trophies. They got smashed in finals. And people said, why are they not performing well at Worlds? You just answered your own question.
Well, I mean, part of it was the not Bo, what's his name? Tian, sorry.
Yeah.
Like his arm issue. Like, I mean, that seemed to have been the biggest issue. They weren't able to get in scrims. He was in, a lot of physical pain. So and they didn't have Bo anymore because of the whole cheating controversy. So they didn't have a sub, so they couldn't throw in a sub. So they had to play with a crippled player. And that sucks. So it's hard to say how good.
Alluded to issues on the team. He didn't.
Yeah, it's hard to say how good they would be there. Like it. So it's like I don't think it's an unreasonable assumption to have gone into Worlds expecting them to do better. Because because they really shit the bed, you know, and it's like 2-4 is not a very good result for them. And then they lost to Rogue, and then, you know, Cloud9 beat Rogue, obviously. But like, I mean, it's just like that was kind of a weird situation all around. So I don't know how to mask that up, you know?
For me, the real group of death, looking back, was the Detonation Focus Me 100 Thieves group.
Oh, yeah. That was the group of death.
Group of death.
Yes.
There was any game loss to Detonation Focus Me 100 Thieves would have been, the group would have got thrown into chaos, actually.
Yeah.
Back now, people got Cloud9 had strengths to play through. They were just inconsistent. That's all it was.
And I think yeah, Rogue was kind of a little bit underwhelming for like what they should have been able to do. Hansama played amazing, obviously. But yeah, no, I think Rogue is just a serial choker. You know, it's like they always seem to choke whenever it matters.
Not gonna drink the Rogue Kool-Aid. No, we don't have cake here like other guys. We have Kool-Aid. You don't drink the Rogue Kool-Aid anymore?
Have they kept like the same coaching staff as like in like
they've kept Freddie 112. They kept Freddie. They've swapped out assistant coaches actually.
I mean, do you think that might be an issue, or with their choking?
It's hard to put too much on. It's hard to tell how much to put on coaching at points, because a coach can have a good game plan, but the players cannot execute. So it's like I think coaching is one of the things that is really hard to tell how well someone's doing. You know, like if they're scouting well, if they're, you know, telling people what to do, like that's one thing. But if a team has a good game plan, but the players are just, you know, making dumb decisions like face checking a bush, that's not on the coach.
Like
you know,
like nowadays people complain about draft, right? Some of these drafts aren't as bad as everyone says they are.
The most
overrated players just completely fumble the draft. Like you'll have teams picking. I'm just making a comp here. Gangplank, Viego, mid lane. Give me a mid laner. Zoe, Ezreal, Tom Kench, bot lane. That's actually not a bad comp. Poke, dive, scaling, you know? But a team like that cannot fight a poke comp early on, and you cannot face check as a Tom Kenshin's that, or you might get blown up by the champions who have longer range than you. Teams with that kind of comp, Gangplank, Viego, Zoe, Ezreal, Tom Kench, they think they can skirmish 5v5. It's like, you cannot do that. That's not what that comp does. You cannot fight like that.
Well, that's why I like when teams have like a clear identity for playstyle. Like EG in the spring had a very clear playstyle in mind. I think it was like, with a few exceptions where Impact was on something a little bit more spicy. It was generally weak side top, some sort of like engage or carry jungler, depending what was more meta for Inspired at the time. You had JoJo on some sort of mage, and then you had Danny on a hyper carry plus Vulcan on some sort of support that either was hard engage or meant to just literally keep Danny alive. So like the TK. So like you had a very clear identity for what these players wanted, and I think that helped them out so much. So like when we see something like Worlds come up, or even MSI, which super spices up the meta, it's like, or even coming playoffs, sometimes the meta gets really spiced up. It's harder for those teams to stick to those identities that made them successful. Is it really fair to put that on the coaching? Is it really fair to put it on the players? Is it fair to put it on the meta? It's a little bit of a Kobayashi Maru where you don't know, actually. You know?
And then there's other contextual points, like maybe certain players aren't on the same page and are making plays all the time, because there's Cloud9 games at Worlds. If people go back and watch some of the games, they're not even playing bad. They're just not on the same page when it comes to certain things.
Well, what do you mean, man? Perks, Yasuo, that was definitely a good decision.
No, I remember back in 2016, the 2016 World Championship, the quarterfinals, C9 versus Samsung Galaxy. Remember when they tried to make that play on Crown and he did that Cassiopeia 1v2 outplay? That wasn't bad. The actual Cloud9 initial play is good there. They mistimed it. It's one person's going in, it's like, oh god, I'm flashing in. The other guy's going, I wasn't even ready for that. And then Crown just turns it, you know?
There could be there's a difference between a good idea and good execution. And I think actually the Academy broadcast for the LCS does a pretty good job of pointing that out at points where it's like, they're like, that was like, they'll say like, oh, like I understand the concept of what they were going for there. They just fumbled the execution. And I think that's good when like commentators and stuff point that out, because otherwise you have the 400 IQ, 2 trillion karma Redditors going to make their flaming post right away. You know what I mean? It's stupid. Like, people got to understand how these teams work and how playing in an actual team environment works. You are going to fuck up eventually. Someone's going to make a bad decision. Someone's going to make a bad call. Someone's going to just do something that they thought they were on the same page, but they weren't. That's how team sports work. And you see it at the highest level of any game, you know?
All right. Time to talk about our favorite team. TSM. Almost.
Oh,
We gotta say appetizers.
Jesus
Appetizers. Because I wanted to ask Mr. TGH, the whole argument of the LCS viewership is dying has been floating around. Not even just people think it's just been this year. No, it's been floating around
in
for
the last like 3 years. Yeah.
3 years, yeah. What do you think the LCS could do to draw in more viewers, actually?
I think there's a certain reality that people got to face, that there's just not as many people interested in League of Legends esports in the West, or if they are, their teams actually have to be good. You look back when the LEC was really popping off, it was coming off doing well at an international event. I think if NA actually did well at an international event again, like if we had a 2019 TL moment, I think there would be a lot of reinvigorated interest, not getting swept in the finals, of course, but like actually like having a decent performance versus a big team, I think would help a lot. But in terms of like the broadcast, I think the broadcast is actually pretty solid right now. I think there are a couple things that personally I don't like too much, like I generally think the commentating is actually, it's pretty good. I like Freak. I like a lot of the more controversial people and that people don't
Same
like.
Here, yeah.
I like a lot of the content they've been producing. They've been kind of taking a note out of the LEC book and doing like sketches and stuff. I think the personalities are there. I just don't think the interest in the game is there. And you can have a good production, you can have all of that, but if the interest isn't there, then what are you going to do? I mean, they advertise it on the front of the client every single time there's a game. They
see ads on YouTube.
You see ads.
Space, yeah.
Yeah, they got big sponsors, they got big names, they got big money. But at the end of the day, if there's only 100,000 people that want to show up and watch a game, there's only 100,000 people that want to show up and watch the game. I also think a lot of people are kind of disingenuous with VOD viewership. VOD viewership is incredibly important to these leagues as well, and is the most under talked about thing. Go back and look at some popular game VODs, like, and they're not going to be insane, but they're numbers. And those matter. Those are impressions for ads. Those are all that. They have all that data, like same that they would have for like a Twitch or a YouTube stream, right? And also, don't just look at the Twitch numbers. The YouTube stream does pretty well too. It's usually about half the Twitch viewership. So if it's like 100,000 on YouTube, on Twitch, then it's about 50K ish on YouTube. Also, co-streaming, I think is important. I really wish they do it more, but I understand it leeches viewership from the mainstream, and that looks bad for them, and it probably doesn't help with sponsors. So there's a lot going into it. I think it's a complicated issue. I think the people who are just like the LCS is fucking up, I think that's completely disingenuous, or just an uninformed argument.
We talked about this early in the show. It's people who actually don't do content creation, who don't have a creative bone in their body, saying to the person actually doing it, you need to just change it all up. This is all going wrong. The numbers are not there. It's like, we talked about this on last week's episode too. You know, those little LCS teases you get for games?
Yeah.
I think the LCS need to do those more. Now, you have fans who go, the views aren't there. 6,000 views is fine for a league that averages like 25K for a stream. That's fine. The only reason why it's not there consistently with those views is because they don't do them often. They don't do them often like the LEC does. They need to do those every week, all the time, even for bad teams, because that shows the viewer, that shows me you care about these upcoming matches, whether they're good or bad. Doesn't matter. The NBA, they'll hype up bad matches too. They'll go Timberwolves versus Mavericks.
Like
watching those
they'll have
teams?
like the ESPN game of the week or something, like the like Wednesday night games. It'll be like the most boring two teams of all times.
But
And
they still hype them up.
Yeah, they'll hype it up. They'll put some hype music. They'll show some dunks or something. And it tries to get you interested. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but and then there's fans going, the views are so... If that's all you care about is views, then you don't really care about the product as a whole. Because views could say one thing, but the actual content itself could say another. I thought that last LCST's video they did with Closer, Santorin, and Sven, that was amazing. Why not do that more?
It takes a lot of time too. You got to keep
that
in mind.
Yeah, scheduling players after scrims to come in and do it. Yeah, that's
they film a lot of that stuff. They have like the media day at the beginning of the year where they got like the shots of the guys going like, and stuff. So they have that stuff. And they get a lot of that. But yeah, like I think a lot of the teasers have been pretty good. Like at the beginning of the split, you had like the the hype video to start up the split. I think those have been really good for the last couple. And I think, there have been issues in the past, like 2020, the COVID year with like the LCS Dome was absolutely embarrassing. Like that, you can't really defend that one. Yeah, it was cringe. It was super cringe. And then like
LCS Dome, never forget.
Remember that? Yeah. So, there's stuff that I will bash on. There are people not, I'll be honest, I'm not as much of a fan of on broadcast. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to burn any bridges, but it's like I think there are people and some people that they've gotten rid of who I'm happy they got rid of in the last couple years. So it's like, I think there is stuff like that. And I think they are making steps in the right direction generally. Also, but keep in mind, LEC viewership is down as well. So like this whole it's only NA thing is just sheer and utter cope. And I feel like it's from a lot of people who just want to see the LCS fail more than they actually want to see it succeed.
Yeah, it's the same type of people who say the regional European league is more successful.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
maybe, but like Jesus Christ, they just want to try to push that narrative. Like, hey,
Also,
the Mayan region is better.
People need to understand this as well. Viewership is such a weird argument because each year viewers could be lower or higher, give or take whatever reason. Like there are certain years the NBA viewership is lower, but some years it's higher based off certain roster changes, certain players going to this state, this state, this state. Just because it was super popular at a certain point, that doesn't mean it was going to sustain that. Actually, people like Monte Cristo and Thornton up, just because it had those many viewers at that current point in time doesn't mean they were going to keep it anyway, because general interest fades in because people nowadays, most people are going to know this word, it's called trends. Something's trend for a while, they do very well, but then at a certain point, they just don't do as well.
And there's also more esports. There's more esports to watch now. And it's like a lot of great productions, like I mean, just pretty much anything now has a really clean production for esports. Like, it's kind of crazy how much content there is out there.
Let's not talk about Overwatch League.
Overwatch League, the best league, right?
I have not watched any Overwatch League, so
you don't have to. Don't worry. Just watch season 1 and then throw the rest of it in the trash.
Go Philadelphia Fusion. Yes.
The biggest chokers ever.
So that's my thing is I think people need to understand what was the LCS's actual viewership. I think the actual viewership is what they have right there. Now you can increase that because that's your actual viewership. Those are your dedicated viewers watching, like me, like you, year in, split out. I'll watch every game, Sally Immortals and FlyQuest games too. But I watch them all. I watch all the games, watch all the playoff games too. But the people don't understand this though. That's gonna change. Next year it could be higher based off of whatever reason.
Well, and I think another thing is like I went back. I said at the start, like the international viewership thing, like watching like how we perform internationally. It's if you're in the US, it is so fucking terrible to watch any international event timing wise.
Yes,
you have to literally dedicate your life to it. Last year when I was covering Worlds, it was an absolute couple weeks of misery because I was trying to go to my classes because I was in college. I was trying to do all this stuff while waking up at like 2 a.m. and, trying to get doing everything because we didn't know who we had for interviews. So we had to wait till after every single game to get like a response back. It was absolutely terrible.
For 2020, 2021, they've had the events in Ireland, China, Korea.
Well, even this year for MSI, like
right.
Like you see 3-0 in that series with EG. It is not like a 3-0, like does not tell the story of that series because it feels like it was just a one-sided shit stomp when you see a 3-0. But then you actually go back and you watch it and you're like, wow, you know what? EG actually had chances to win these games. And so like when you just look at it on like you go to the LoL Esports site or you see the headline on whatever news outlet or you see it on Reddit or whatever, right? You're like, oh, NA sucks at League of Legends again. Why would I watch this league? And I think because they can't watch it during a time where they'd actually see what happened, it really does demoralize and kill, I guess, the desire to watch these leagues.
Because also my thing with the LCS viewership, it also depends on, to be fair, because this was an average person thing. This is what I said last episode. If someone deems LPL and LCK better, they're just going to go watch those leagues. There actually isn't a reason to watch this if the other regions are better. That's what an average person is going to think. Wait, they think NA sucks. Why would I watch all these other things who sucks? I'll just go watch Faker then.
And the broadcast, I think, in especially the LPL, have really improved in the last couple of years.
That no one talks about that broadcast at all. Their broadcast used to absolutely
terrible. It was the absolute worst thing of all time.
Horrible. It was really, really bad.
Yeah, and I think but they've really increased production, and even the LCK, like genuinely, like if someone was like, Mike, would you rather watch the LCK or LCS full time? As much of an NA fan as I am, as much as I will always root for NA no matter what, I probably choose the LCK because I find a lot of their teams more fun to watch and more entertaining. But I love
and
NA.
you actually got better gameplay.
Yeah, and I love NA League of Legends though, and I will defend it to the end. And there's a reason I watch it. It's because I love it. I'm passionate about it, and I want to see my country actually succeed internationally. Right? Like I love. It's the nationalistic pride that makes the Olympics fun. Like you want to root for your country. It's fun. These events are fun for that, and I really want to see more of that.
Yeah, I get all the criticism. I just also don't get people who do nothing but like, how are you ever going to improve if all you do is trash it instead of giving valid criticism?
Well, and you've seen actually Riot employees are asking, like the new commissioner for the league was when they first got hired, they literally was like, tell me everything that's wrong with the league. And when I mean that she read it, she actually did. So it's like they want to hear feedback. And there's another thread about viewership. What drew you away the other day, like a couple weeks ago? Like they're asking for the feedback, and people who are providing it and being constructive instead of just typing NA Keck W in chat, which while admittedly is fun, like it actually, that feedback is important, and these people are actively looking for it and they want to hear it. So
and
please,
the thing here
if you
is
have positive feedback, give it.
If people go in those threads, one of the main reasons why people left, their interest in the game just left. It has not. Sometimes it wasn't even just the LCS or the broadcast or the players, the personality, or even TSM. We're going to talk about in just a moment after this. Their interest in the league game just faded. There was some girls I even know that played the game. I was like, what time did you start watching the LCS? Back in 2017. I was asked them why. I just asked why. They're like, my interest just wasn't there. I just wanted to do it. I just want to go watch other things. That happens in life, guys. Your interest just fades, and you want to go watch other pieces of content. Would be lots of movies, TV shows, A24 movies like this crazy man watches.
Hey.
I had to go turn on the AC. It was burning
you're good, man. So that was
all the esports over the years. So MSK, like tons. There's been many before League, obviously, that people have like stopped watching. It's like they think this is something new. Like, no, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and the LCS should be lucky that they still have a consistent viewership that is there watching them. It could be actually
2009.
Actual dead viewership would be like 1,000 viewers. That'd be like actually dead. I'd be like, okay, you probably just call it quitters. No, it's like 25K. That's actually, a lot of people keep doing this thing in life where they go, no, I wish I was that guy. It's like, well, you're not that guy. All you have to do is just improve. Now, people for LCS, what you brought up earlier was about the Academy thing, which is the last thing I'll tackle on that, which is, I think people say they care about Academy, but they really don't, because a lot of the players that have the biggest followers, the teams with not NA players on them, their games are highly more viewed. The players have more followers on Twitter. Their streams get more viewers. Anytime an NA player replaces a big name import player on a top tier team like Cloud9, TSM in the past, 100 Thieves, and EG, fans are going, why would you replace this guy with this NA player? People don't actually care as much as they say they do. It's all bullshit.
It's so weird.
The teams that actually have the most
replacing licorice with fudge. Oh, that's going to be a terrible move. Fuck off.
Like, you have the teams that are actually like the top tier teams, like 100 Thieves, EG now, TSM and Cloud9 and Team Liquid. They have the highest viewership for games. They barely have NA players on them. So I find it very disingenuous. People say, I care about NA talent, yet the team they root for has barely any NA players on it. That makes no sense.
If you actually care about NA talent, watch Academy or watch Amateur. Like, because the production's actually, I want to say this because I really want to give credit where credit's due. Yeah. Academy and Amateur this year have been really fun to watch. And while personally, I'm going to be honest, some of the commentators I really don't like. I think overall the production is really good, and I'm really happy that they do
you think some of those guys Riot should bring on for next year's broadcast?
I think there are some. I don't want to name names, so don't burn bridges. But it's more or less like there are people I think in Academy that are really good at casting, who I would really love to see in the LCS. But I also think there is a realistic. We only have so many games, so you have to probably get rid of someone. And I don't know who they'd get rid of on the current broadcast in terms of commentary.
Yeah, because people claimed it was nepotism. People say it's nepotism keeping the same people. It's like, but it's another issue with the community. This isn't like people in general.
Yeah.
But if there's nothing bad with them, there's no reason to replace them. If it's not broke, don't fix it. People like Freak, Captain Flowers.
I don't know if people like Freak, man. A lot of people.
I love Freak for some.
I love him, but
like if there's nothing really wrong with these guys, there's no reason to replace them. I mean, Latyrus has gotten criticism for her shoutcasting, which I don't find that well, But other than that, and people find her, she's learning, improving. Eventually, during time, she might get a little bit better.
I think she's gotten better, but I'm going to be honest. I still think she's probably one of the weaker people on the broadcast. But I think she has improved, and genuinely, like, same thing with when they brought in Emily. Like, I think Emily has, like, in the last year, matured so much on broadcast. She's so good now, and she was always good before, but I think she had some issues stepping up and being a bit more expressive at points. But now I think she's amazing on the broadcast, and I'm so happy they have her. So there's people like that. And I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about the broadcast talent, but I don't know. I think the LCS is in a pretty good spot with the people that they have, and if they bring on one or two people for the post game or pre game or something, or just an occasional color commentary, I would be down for that, because I think there is still enough room to add one or two more people.
Do you miss when they used to bring on the academy teams to play one of their games too on stage?
No, because it's probably a logistical nightmare. And
okay,
yeah, I think it means a lot to the academy players. I know it means a lot to the academy players being able to go on stage, but in terms of Riot broadcast, I completely understand.
Yeah, they have to run the studio longer.
They have to run the studio. You gotta if you want to have fans, you gotta have all that. So you gotta deal with the missions. You gotta deal with all this stuff. And if it's only for one game that they just
it's academy,
no one, probably most people aren't gonna stay. I wouldn't be opposed to it coming back, but you got to understand the way that the schedule is now is that they play during the weekday. So you'd have to delay an academy game for the weekend. So then they get less time in between games, between weeks. So there's a lot to it.
They missed some of these spicy things they used to do in the past. But yes, it took a lot to do these spicy things. So BO3s, when they made an entirely new studio. Remember last year, they did the Friday games, actually, the extra BO1. They've tried to spice things up. It's more like the teams themselves. It's harder on them, but the fans enjoy it. I like when they try new things. But if the teams themselves actually say it's a burden to do it, then who am I to say it's wrong? Because they're the ones paying the players. Actually,
and the overwhelming feedback was that 3 games was way too much, and it just was a pain. Especially when they did the 3 weeks, but then they also only played a couple games a day. So then you didn't know you could go Friday and then not play on Saturday, and then you play on Sunday. That was back in 2021. I mean 2020.
Remember Monday Night League?
Yeah, there was a lot of dumb stuff that they did. So it's you get the feedback, and I think it's important. I also think there is a certain point though where the player in team feedback should not be relevant, and you shouldn't always bend to that. But I would say that's far and few between.
Yeah, because they are the ones paying the players. They're ones
but there also is a reality if you got to do what's healthy for the league, and you got to at a certain point you got to be all right, owners, shut up. And
now we're on to TSM, our favorite League of Legends organization, especially Sean's actually.
Oh yeah, I love TSM.
So anyone who's watching this part of the show, TSM leaked their roster changes actually, and the Reginald investigation finally came to a head. After all this time, I actually almost forgot about this at a certain point.
Honestly, yeah.
All right, says right here by our team solo mate. Hey guys, we are making a few changes to our LCS and Academy teams this week. Here is some context regarding the changes. Oh, great. I love TSM context. Back when Parth used to give context and everyone used to flame him for his context. Oh, it's funny. Top, Huni. Due to recurring wrist injuries, he will step down from the starting top lane position. He'll be assisting the coaching staff for the remainder of the split. Huni has been very vocal over the last 2 weeks about his desire to help with pick and ban and develop Soul. We believe his knowledge and experience will help grow our young talent. Okay, so Huni is basically done for the season. Let's be honest. He's
probably done for maybe forever.
But. And then now people said, why weren't TSM more transparent with this one? This is what they claimed they should have said. The fans said that they should have just specified retirement.
Well, they actually specifically said retirement at first, and this isn't edited. They edited the Reddit post. Okay. So yes,
maybe
despite their Twitter. This is what they said. So today, Huni will be announcing his retirement from competitive play due to wrist injuries. That's what they said on the Reddit. Versus on the Twitter where they said due to reoccurring wrist injuries, Huni has decided to step down. So first of all, TSM, you got to keep that messaging consistent. You have to, because those are two completely different things. Like that's so bad. That's so bad.
I mean, would it be a TSM report without that?
No, it wouldn't. I don't like. God, man, like it's the simple things that TSM fucks up that really annoys me.
Yeah, but I do agree though. He should honestly just retire, in my opinion, because he's already filthy as fuck rich, and at this point, by the time he gets back and is healthy again because of wrist injuries, like he'll probably not be able to find a starting spot again. And I think it would just be better if he transitioned.
He could get a starting spot in a minor region.
Maybe, definitely. But I don't think it's worth. I think it'd be better if he just transitioned into a coaching role. I think he's actually suited for that. He's a good leader.
What if he went back to Immortals of Reignover? The Reignover Immortal Huni reunition.
I think he'd rather go back to Korea and just spend 2 years.
What if he joins T1 and replaces Zeus? Oh my god.
Zeus.
Oh hell yeah, and then I'll make Worlds Finals somehow with him playing Gnar all the time.
Then I'll lose again. Burns. So, our new up-and-coming top laner was promoted earlier than we originally expected, but has shown great ambition to step up to the role. Before he was promoted to fill Huni's shoes, we thought he was the 7th to 8th top laner in the LCS. But during the LCS scrims, his performance has surprisingly exceeded our expectations. We believe that as long as he continues to improve and gain experience, he will become an LCS top laner in the near future. Nothing with this one? You guys see bad?
I'll wait till the end for a comment.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, his stats obviously look poor because he's on TSM Academy with how they've done both of these splits. But yeah,
I looked really well actually.
Yeah,
they played well.
But, I mean, they're not the worst anymore. Now Golden Guardians is after this week, but I mean, I did watch like his individual play more though, and his scrims, and he does seem definitely better than it looks. He definitely isn't like really ready yet, but I mean, you need that experience. That's important. So maybe they have something in him. I mean, as long as they don't like put much pressure on him, then it shouldn't be terrible. But yeah.
Solo. He is a veteran player that should add some stability to the academy for the remainder of the split. So it's not sure if he's staying for next year either. As we look to evaluate our junior academy players at the same time, we believe he is very reliable and can step up if our LCS team needs him. Okay, so that's just top done. Okay. Academy Jungle, Onda. He is a veteran player that has played on FlyQuest and 100 Thieves, who has shown his proficiency as a shot caller and will provide a level of stability in the jungle for the Academy team. Riot has been given approval for Onda to play remotely in Canada for the rest of the Academy split until his visa is approved. We are in the process of collecting the necessary documents for his visa application so he can play with the team in person for Proving Grounds summer 2022. Hyper. Despite putting in more effort this summer than he did in the last split, he was still unable to meet expectations. This was a hard decision since we like to reward his effort and him taking the necessary steps to improve. But right now, we need someone more stable in the position, so we had to let him go when someone more fitting showed up.
Imagine if they just said that about Shenny instead of the post they made before.
ADC, Tactical. Tactical will be moving to Academy due to some ongoing performance and personal issues. Okay. Instinct has been playing really well with Chime and Scrims, and we believe he is our best option at ADC. We have not ruled out looking to pick up an external ADC to close out the split. If we believe Instinct needs more time to develop. Okay. Make sure I read the right thing. Support. Chime. We will be picking up Chime, a solid support from Golden Guardians. His performance over the break was top-notch and gave us confidence in his ability to succeed with Instinct since they have been practicing well together over the last week. Because of this synergy, we decided to use Chime as the LCS starter in Week 5. We also want to thank Golden Guardians for letting Chime go mid-split. Golden Guardians chose to prioritize Chime's future by allowing him to pursue the opportunity for a starting LCS spot at TSM. Okay.
I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, now we get the big one. Oh God,
this one. What? Like, why couldn't they just say what they did with Hyper for data? What
Shenny.
kind of team says this?
Unfortunately, Shenny is becoming a liability to our academy team's development. Oh God. We originally
believed that Shenny could be our starting support for our LCS team. However, we quickly realized that Mia had a better champion pool and laning skills than Shenny, earning Mia the starting LCS spot. When Shenny was moved to the academy team, he became demotivated and did not meet expectations. This lack of motivation combined with the absence of shot calling stunted the development of the academy team as a whole. Instead of waiting until the end of summer, we thought it would be best to make the necessary changes now so we can properly evaluate our junior academy players going into the next offseason. Okay, very last one, Mia. We still have a lot of confidence in Mia and believe he is much better than his recent performance, which is actually true. That I can give him. He's actually much better than he showed. But he needs some time to rebuild his confidence. Therefore, the coach and I both agreed that we need to give him some time to regain his confidence on the academy team. Mia showcased his excellence in academy at the start of the season, and we believe that with some time, he can regain that form along with his confidence. Okay, so those are their changes for anyone that's watching. This is the big one that obviously stepped out from people, so we'll cover this one. The big one where this line right here, Shenny is becoming a liability to our academy team's development.
I agree. And I'm actually happy they said it.
I actually somewhat agree. He's not been good.
No, he has been an absolute liability. And I understand like a lot of stuff in esports. You want to keep people like held up and, keep them to a higher standard and, be nice about it. But I'm sorry. Look at his performance. He was absolute dog water. And if he wasn't trying, then abso-fucking-lutely he deserves to be flamed. And I don't understand why that's a bad thing. If someone's not trying, why should they go out on good notes? Why?
And anyone that knows me, I don't support TSM. I don't even root for them. A lot of the fans always clamor for transparency. Be honest with us.
Yes.
They're being honest.
Like, we don't know what exactly went on behind the scene, though. Like, we know TSM has had a history of lying with players before. So we don't know if those.
Do you really think they lied here? Let me ask you: if you think that's the case, what's the motivation? What's the motivation here? So can they get rid of Shenny?
He's just playing like trash and just not on like agreements with the team. Yeah, but
then why wouldn't they say exactly what they did with Tactical? There's no motivation where they would flame him in any other way. Because if that's the case, if that's the I'm not saying you're making the argument, but if that's like that the argument that people want to push, then there has to be some reason. Was it maybe contract related? Was it something like that? If that's the argument people want to make, then that's fine. But unless you can back that with something, then I'm going to choose the words here. Because first of all, Smithy's the head coach now on TSM Academy. And frankly, I don't think he's going to take someone who's not fucking trying, even though he's a notorious partier. But I think you want to keep professional, which is what they did with Tactical. So I refuse to believe they didn't do it with Shenyi for some sort of reason.
Yeah, they specifically cite his performance with Tactical as being the reason why they benched him, which we saw.
But they did it in a polite way. Look at how they worded it. Yes.
Yeah. Tactical will be moving to Academy due to some ongoing performance and personal issues. Okay.
That's all they had to say with Shenyi. We got rid of him due to performance and personal issues.
But this also isn't a lie either, is what I want to bring up to people. This isn't a lie.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're wrong. Like, honestly, they could be 100% right. It would be easier just as an org if you just word it more professionally. I just don't think.
Yeah, he's going back to China anyway. Like, I mean, he was going to go back to China anyway.
Yeah, I think honestly they did this. I think honestly because he's been doing this about the org, like sort of like how Malice was doing with like Cloud9 for a bit when they first signed him, like really also, talking trash about him.
It's not even just with this post. A lot of LCS fans always say we just want to be told the truth. Why are orgs always kind of like doing PR statements, hiding behind the fact? Guys, they're being honest right here. I mean, like, this is how honesty works in the real world. If you can't understand that, you don't need to go get a job because you can't take a boss probably when your boss.
I think if they just said it wasn't on the same page with the academy team, and as a result, it kind of stunted the growth with other players, and I think that would have been better.
That's fair.
I personally think TSM created this beast too. I think TSM created this problem for themselves. They have the same experiment that Cloud9 tried with LS. Except theirs was the Chinese players. Basically the same thing. They had an LDL experiment with Kyoto and Shenny. Shenny got benched after 2 weeks. We find out it's because him and Tactical had a disagreement, obviously. Tactical didn't know that they could hit level 2 at a certain point in a certain game, and then he got mad about that, and then it all ballooned out to this.
Oh, right, that's what happened, really?
There's some validity to that.
Oh man, because I thought it was like they were backstage, and Tactical told him that Alinity got a ban from Twitch.
Oh my god!
And then he turned into the Hulk and went angry through a chair.
Okay, now we live in reality.
Fortunately not.
So I think after that moment, if that is true, I think at that point he was mentally done. He's like, wait a minute, why am I going to play with the guy who doesn't know how to play his champions correctly, know how to level up? His point of view, obviously not mine. Then he gets benched. He comes back after they bring in Yurasan. He's still not playing good. He's at that point in his head, he's already mentally done. He's already mentally done. The year's already over for him, essentially. Then he doesn't get the spot to Mia. He's like, I'm going to Academy. I can't. He wasn't going to get a spot back. He wasn't going to get a spot back anyway. They weren't going to promote Shenyi back.
I think Shenyi was really, really disappointing. I think there's a lot that was disappointing with the whole TSM thing. I think the coaching staff's disappointing. I think Tactical's performance has been disappointing. I think a lot of it's been really sad. So when I look at this, I really think this is just conceding loss for the year. But I don't think that's bad. I think Soul, formerly, I think his name used to be Anime Girl, which is funny. He's a good top laner. And I'm happy that he's getting a chance. I think he's getting rushed up a little bit too quick, but that's exactly what happened with Danny, and it worked out. Everyone forgets that it was supposed to be Shoryu, but he couldn't get the spot due to visa issues. So they had to go with, at the time, what was his name? It was so much cooler. Shiro. So they grabbed Shiro from EG Prodigies. They brought him up. Now he's Danny. And he ended up working out, and he became the next star. So I think that's what TSM wants here. And like they said, if it doesn't work, they just put in Solo, who I think is great. And I think he's still an LCS quality top laner. I didn't watch the games today, but I watched the 2 FlyQuest games yesterday. He played out of his mind.
Now, the only thing I think they should have did, if they really weren't going to buy into Shenyi after the spring split, they should have just got rid of him like they did with Kyoto. They knew it wasn't going to work with Kyoto. They got rid of him sooner. I think that's the only real problem with that. If they knew it wasn't going to work out with these guys, you just get rid of them sooner.
Well, then, but I agree, but then they would have, but they also got rid of their support as well for Academy. Right. So they needed someone to fill the spot, and they probably thought, well, this guy's already on contract. We'll just put him there.
Yeah.
So
that's it with their roster changes. I mean, I don't think anyone disagrees that Tactical should be benched.
Yeah, but I don't like Instinct. I don't think Instinct's very good. I think he's actually quite terrible. I don't know. Yeah, honestly.
Oh, you think so, really?
No ill will towards Instinct. I hope he does well. I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't think he was good enough in Academy to even justify the promotion. Oh. And I think they actually made that very clear, that they were still willing to look for an external ADC if he does not perform to level. It makes it very clear that Tactical probably will not be earning that spot back this year as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think if it comes down to it, Instinct's probably going to go back down to Academy, and
265
probably, yeah.
Yeah, and then Tactical sits out.
Placed on a bottom team with multiple ongoing scandals, benched multiple times, and then he gets called a liability, all while dealing with a cultural / language barrier. Holy crap, TSM's GM has negative empathy.
Well, look at the guy below. He's absolutely right. So this is actually what happened, by the way. So that whole thing with the whole flaming, it was a solo queue game or a scrim or something. That really didn't matter. It's when he locked in a champion after not being told to. That's what I think it was Rel. I believe it was Rel.
It was that Rel game. Yeah,
it was Rel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the actual issue. You cannot do that. You cannot. There is no excuse for that. There's no language barrier argument. There's nothing like that. If you are told to lock in a champion, you lock in the champion.
The Shy.
You want to argue it afterwards? That's fine. Yeah.
The Shy did that at Worlds, and he got benched for the game afterwards.
Good, and as he should. It's an absolute egocentric thing.
Oh, is that why they put Duke in?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I thought they were just giving him his world.
He was supposed to lock in. He was supposed to lock in Jace. He locked in Fiora because he didn't want to listen to the coach, and they almost actually won that game, surprisingly, but they lost. And then they threw in Duke.
Yeah, I thought they were just giving Duke a world skin.
He was just being an asshole. Nope.
Okay.
Being an asshole.
Jesus, fuck.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. So it's just really cringe because you see the whole. I think the hate of TSM has become so circle jerky, where it's you just you could see something like this where a player deserves to get benched, and it's just the hate for TSM has defied everyone's ability to just think rationally.
Yeah, because this
It's
guy
super
explained it right
cringe.
here, benched multiple times after ego locking a champ on stage in an official game without any communication to the team or
Yep.
the coach, and then also getting ass blasted with it on top of it in week 2 when the team hadn't even been dog shit for that long. What do you propose the org do in that situation other than benching him? Would you say this is not bench worthy? It's true. Following that initial response to it was more negativity, which is why the benching continued for several weeks until he was playing back on the team. Then they had that awkward TSM Legends episode where he apologized, and that was so awkward. You could tell he's mentally done already. He was already done. Like, after all this stuff, he was already done.
They were filming that, God, it reminded me of like when they filmed that CLG meet and like, yep, there's gonna be changes. You're all getting your asses kicked out of here.
You know what? And that's another thing I'll actually defend. I'll defend that CLG video. But that's a hot take for me.
Well, they kind of deserve that.
The issue was putting a sponsor on it. That was where they fucked up.
That's where they messed up at.
That's where they messed up. If that was in like a TSM Legends video, everyone would be like, "Oh my god, it's so honest." But it's because they just filmed it and then they put Bud Light on it and then they just put it on Twitter. That was where they messed up.
Well, you know why they did that? Bad. Well, because they're gonna lose their jobs, so they're just gonna go drinking their misery away with Bud Light.
Fast forward to benching 2. Team coming off a horrible split gives both Shenny and the new guy a chance in scrims. Turns out they think the new guy is better. Shenny then again responds negatively to it. Mental booming in Academy again to the point where it was apparently so severe that it impacted the entire team. Again, what do you propose here? I love how these aren't the most now thankfully this is the most upvoted one, thankfully, but people who just make like surface level analysis statements are always the people getting most upvoted on Reddit. Pure surface level.
I hate Reddit so much. I hate
Reddit is literally Twitter before Twitter became a thing. It's literally Twitter.
So I think Reddit's 20 times more cancer than Twitter.
Have you guys seen political Twitters? They're horrible.
I know. I mean, but political Reddit's not really.
I mean, it's
either,
close.
So.
Political Reddits are disgusting. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's everything's awful when you have like a hive mind system where it's like up votes and down votes, and then it just it becomes a
this guy says
dick measuring contest.
This is some intern level understanding of transparency from their PR.
Like again, maybe they could have worded it in a way that meant the same thing and it was slightly more nice. I'm willing to concede that, but I don't think it. I think people are acting like it matters way more than it does just because it's TSM. This guy's going to go back to China. He still might get an offer in the LDL or some other thing. I don't think this guy's career is over.
He'll be on like the 16th best LPL team.
He could be in the LPL. I mean, guys, like look at Summit. And he's performing now on FPX. Like a player who stuff didn't work out with an NA. It doesn't really matter what happens. These players go back and then they're going to do well. It's like I just think it's the most.
This is a small one right here. He might have never been LCS level to begin with. Flood's comms, Flame's tactical on stream, and all of the champs he could have chose to run it down with. He picked Rel. Well, Double have said he floods comms, and that's the thing. People just copying what Double said. Flooding comms how? No one ever explains how he's
too much. I don't know. I don't have access to the comms.
Yeah. People say floods comms. People always say it's like no. Talking is good for a team environment. Talking too much, I guess that's debatable amongst who you speak to. I guess maybe potentially I've played some very minorly competitive league. I played for my school team, and if someone is talking too much, it can be a bad thing. That's true.
Ideally, you want to have a shot caller or two, whoever that is. I don't know who it is on TSM because I follow them, but I don't watch every TSM Legend
episode. This guy brought it up. He says they should have only suspended him for a game because of the shy. I think that's a different scenario, and it's a whole group.
Yeah, bro, you're talking about World's quarterfinals. World's quarterfinals. You have to advance the next round.
Yeah, that and it's like that was one issue with the shy, one small issue. This is like a mountain of issues with Shenny.
Well, and also it's also the response to it. We don't know if the shy afterwards said, "All right, my bad, I apologize." If Shenny kept defending it and kept pushing that he was right, then that's a different thing too. So we don't have the context of that for either of the two scenarios. So it's it's just presumptuous,
Well, I really want to know what was said in the voice chat with his Chinese buddies in the L.
Well, they had it up here. Basically, he said how basically not as a word for word. Basically, he alluded to how come his ADC LCS partner didn't understand how to hit level 2 off this wave. That's basically what it was.
Well, no, he's talking about in the Shy example.
The Shy example. Oh, my bad.
We don't know what happened in the comments.
I'm actually deaf.
That would be fun. Yeah, no, you're good.
All right, now we have this one. Riot finds TSM owner Reginald places CEO on 2-year probation.
I mean, that's a slap on the wrist.
We finally have the verdict.
That's a slap on the wrist, but whatever.
Well, I don't know what. Here's the thing. I don't know what Riot could have done because it wasn't an Echo Fox level situation where they broke league rules, like in a way that Echo Fox did. He was just really he was just being a bastard. I like genuinely. That's all. Like that's really what it is. Right? Reginald was just being a douche. You know, like so. What level of responsibility is Riot to punish it? And I understand it's a slap on the wrist, but like, what could they reasonably do here? I don't think most other teams want to see a TSM out of the league. You know, like because it drives viewership, and TSM fans are probably good for the LCS in general.
I mean, Reginald changing ownership wouldn't. Honestly, like Reginald's barely around anymore anyway. So
I don't really care if he's owner or not, but like people don't want TSM out of the league, you know. So like,
that will never happen.
Yeah, and Riot can't force them to change their fucking CEO. I mean,
and the problem here is like the fans say just remove TSM. That'd be stupid.
Yeah, it'd be suicide.
That's so bad for viewership. Yeah, no one likes the Cowboys or the Raiders, but
amen. Go Birds.
Removing them would be bad for the league in general. You can't just remove these guys.
Just like how Immortals, what we're getting removed was bad for the league, and then they brought them back, but then, you know, they hired the worst fucking people. Imagine getting 5 likes on each tweet. Hell yeah.
That's my tweets getting 5 likes. Hell yeah, they're basically like me. Riot Games issues TSM a $75,000 fine and placed a 2-year probation period on its CEO, Andy Reginald Din, on July 13th after completing an investigation of his pattern of disparaging and bullying behavior. The company found evidence of verbal abuse unbecoming of an LCS team member and in direct violation of the league rules on harassment and profanity and hate speech. The embattled CEO was given 3 times the maximum fee based on a multi-year pattern of abuse. Riot also ordered Reginald to take sensitivity training and an executive training within 60 days of the ruling to be verified by a third party outside of TSM. Also, what's really weird about this investigation was there was an investigation from within TSM from a guy from the organization. So if anyone has to actually understand that, watching this on the replay, please think about that. Someone from TSM doing an investigation within the org they work for
said nothing happened. It's so crazy.
It makes perfect sense.
Well, they said they hired some third-party people, but
the investigator was Reginald. Hell yeah.
They put him in a detective outfit, and he walked around going like,
hell yeah.
The LCS operators also want to see a company-wide transformation of TSM's internal culture. Both Reginald and TSM have committed to provide that shift in light of another fine levied against the CEO. People have wanted that for years. The fact that you're going to get that probably in 2023 is disgusting.
Yeah.
That is really, really, that's bad.
You know, like
literally asked for that for years.
I think TSM generally, like, God, I think this year's been so weird because I think they've actually done some decent moves. They brought in, what's his name at the, they got like a new head of esports at the beginning of the year or something.
Oh, Dunk Kurt, right?
No. It's, God, I wish I knew his name. I'm blanking on it. But they brought in someone new.
Oh, sorry, he's for the team. He's for the league team. My bad.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, a coach or?
No, it's like for the entire organization of TSM, not just for League of Legends. It's like, oh God, I wish I knew his name. Completely. It doesn't matter. But they brought in someone from like, I think he was like worked at Microsoft or something. He's like, he has a lot of like good leadership skills, and on paper was a really good hire. So like they've done stuff like that I think is good, but I think like where TSM has just really faltered is like they just get rid of like the good assets around them. Like, I mean, like say what you will about Lena, but like she was a popular figure and, you know, had a lot of say. Like Doublelift 2, you burned bridges of 2 of the most popular people within your organization. You got rid of Myth. You burned so much talent, and it's just like that is where it's going to kill you. Bjergsen left. Yeah.
That was the final straw where Bjergsen was like, okay, I can't play around this guy anymore. I'm gonna go to I'll coach the organization. Reginald's tweeting coach draft diff consistently throughout the whole year of 2021. Yeah, he's like, okay, no more of this. I've given this guy championships, the one out of group stage role performance back 8 years ago. And no. And Bjergsen is not a guy to even talk massive trash, like even Jojo Pion would. Jojo Pion would talk trash. Bjergsen's like, you know what? I'm not doing that.
Bjergsen's so nice. Yeah, he's so polite.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'll just go to your rival org. Imagine that. Bjergsen, the guy who was essentially on TSM, gave him a lot of trophies. We're like, I'm going to Steve. I'm going to the rival org.
People should understand. I swear to God, he's the only reason why TSM was afloat from 2014 to whenever he left.
Yeah, I mean there were some big figures in there too.
Double Lift was a massive help with that too. Yeah,
Haunter, like a lot of Biofrost too. Yeah, I mean there's big names in there, but yeah, no, Bjergsen was the stable rock for sure.
Not that one.
Sorry, whom?
And Sven and Mithy for that one.
Yeah, the legends.
And the legend, Mike
Young.
Okay, to ensure TSM and Reginald comply with the needed changes, Riot has set up a tip line with an independent monitor for employees to anonymously report any further abusive conduct by Reginald. The LCS Players Association will also check in with current TSM League of Legends players to report instances of abuse that may occur. Also, this has been almost a joke since it's been incepted. What has this even been?
What, the Players Association? Players Association actually has done some good. Like unironically, they've had a lot. They have a lot of talk in like the big meetings in the off season. They were the ones who were also helping push removing like the 3-game weekends. They have a lot. They actually have a lot of say. And they really, if there's any sort of contract violations, if there's stuff like that where it's like blatant and they're not getting paid or something, that is where the Players Association comes in. It's a good thing to have. Ideally, you never want a Players Association to be used. I mean, like that. If a Players Association is being used, then there's something wrong. And so that's it should fight for like stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's actually a pretty good net thing for the league.
If Riot find more violations within Reginald's 2-year prohibition period, then the company will explore more severely enhanced penalties against TSM. The probation extends to all of Riot's ecosystems, which include TSM's teams in TFT, Valorant, and Wild Rift. TSM must make the probation parameters clear to current staff and players as well as new hires. That's going to be so awkward.
Remember the "we are an asshole" meeting.
Imagine like if Reginald, after these 2 years, so he'll be done in 2024. Imagine he'll go to the LCS some days. The TSM loses, and they lose to let's say lose to like Immortals and FlyQuest that week, and he's in those meetings with them, and he can't flame them. He's that white guy with the sweat where he just wants to just yell. I just want to just berate these guys right now.
Come on, Riot. I'll make it easier for you. How about you check what they've done with that cryptocurrency deal, the money with it? How about you go check on that?
The LCS Players Association supported the decision and will work with Riot to ensure that the ruling is followed. The organization called this a milestone for the league and are looking forward to the new level that will now be available for LCS players. Today marks a milestone in the LCS. The LCSPA began. Never before has an association of esports players called for an independent misconduct investigation. Never before has a developer conducted such an investigation with collaboration from a PA, and never before have outcomes been imposed on a partner team that pointed towards real change to a toxic workplace. We are pleased to see strong action from Riot and the LCS team on this matter. With that said, the PA will remain vigilant to ensure follow through on this ruling. So yeah, Reginald is finally got in trouble, kinda, which is basically a slap on the wrist.
I mean, but it's objectively a net good. It's like this is an overall good thing.
It is, yes.
And like, that's how I'm looking at it. So I'm like, if the intention actually comes through, which who knows, right? If it actually works the way that they are saying it will, then that's probably a good thing. And I think that should, and also that hotline for like reporting abuse should probably be available to all the teams. That's a take I saw on Twitter, and I agree with that.
Because it's not just TSM who has issues. I can guarantee you guys other orgs have issues. You just don't hear about them as often, but they don't ever get talked about.
You also don't want it just being a way to like rat on people too, not like in a bad way. Like, so if someone's like, if you have some bad experience on a team, you don't want people then to just be able to like air dirty laundry You know, and so like there has to be some sort of balance there. But like, you know, overall, if there is some sort of workplace violation or whatever, I think that's probably a good thing that there's some sort of hotline there and a way to get in contact with the PA or right.
You know, it's funny. I think they should have had that for when LS was on Cloud9. That would have been crazy.
Oh my God.
You know, they didn't pick Renekton. I went out.
Summit goes after the game. It just kept putting on Renekton, man. It's terrible.
Well, guys, that wraps it up for this TSM's episode. We have the Cloud9 podcast this week. Also, since Mr. Michael is here, I'm gonna get your predictions for this week, and then we're gonna head out actually. But no, man, it was nice to meet you, and can't wait to have you on. Can't wait to have you on the show. You know, more whenever I can have you on, because we don't do the shows normally Thursday because I watch usually new movies on Thursday, and my wife, I had to go on dates with her generally.
Fuck off with your bullshit, MSK.
I thought you were on my side. Whatever.
Sorry, I was
the only
really busy
time I'm on
yesterday.
You're fine, man. No worries. All right. So he's gonna predict EG for all the games. We know he's a little EG biased.
Well, okay. I'm gonna go over all the games right now. All right, 100 Thieves Fly. That is an easy 100 Thieves W.
Okay.
EG over Dig. I'm gonna go C9 over TSM. I'm gonna go CLG over Immortals. I'm gonna take Golden Guardians over Team Liquid. That's gonna be my upset for the day. I like Golden Guardians. No one's going to convince me otherwise.
TL have been playing bad. They should have lost to FlyQuest.
Yeah,
they got
this
so
my
lucky.
Upset of the week. This is my upset of the week. I'm going to take TSM over FlyQuest. I will take 100 Thieves over CLG. I will take EG over TL and Cloud9 over Immortals. And I will take Golden Guardians, then slumping. So Dignitas over Golden Guardians.
You know, Blue has not been that bad actually.
No, I think he's been fine, but he's
still
fine.
Blue.
Yeah, he's fine. He's like an import slot for a fine player. It's
right now, dude. Inspired's playing so well
Inspired's played great all year. Because everyone forgets how amazing Inspired deserved MVP of the summer playoffs spring playoffs for sure. Mm-hmm. He was absolutely tearing it up on J4, switching builds every game. He was amazing.
I think Impact has brought a lot of value to this team that people just don't talk about.
Yeah.
They talk about Inspire, Danny, and Vulcan. Impact's played so well for them.
Yeah, I feel like I asked after they won the LCS Springs Finals, we had an interview with Inspired, and I asked him directly, I was like, are you sick of like the young talent narrative? Because it feels like it's overriding like your accomplishments on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, kind of. But I also like, hey, I get it. You know, it's like a way to distinguish our team and market it and do all this stuff. So like they're aware of that. And I would say Impact would probably say the same thing. I think Impact doesn't really care about that. He just wants to win and he wants to make it the Worlds again. And I think he was so happy to go the MSI and be back on that international stage because he wasn't there obviously last year.
Last year when he was on EG, they almost beat 100 Thieves. Then they lose to Cloud9. Mm-hmm. And he's out for the rest of the year. Then on this year, he comes back good, actually. He comes back insanely strong. Like, his problem has always been, like, how would you say it? Like, he's a good top laner for what LCS standards are. But even sometimes he'll lose to other bottom-tier LCS top laners. Like, Kelly, you're way better than that, dude. You're, like, way better than that. And I think he's cleaned that up, actually. He's cleaned it up. He's not losing to bottom-tier LCS top laners anymore. You know, because that's one of the reasons why TL... When he was on TL, they put him on weak side because that's limited Scion picks, actually.
Well, I think Impact's always been a weak side player, but I also think he can play strong side, and I think that was one of the things that was underutilized on him on TL. Like, I think when I look at it, I'm like, oh, well, he did really cool things with Mordekaiser on TL and picks like that. But he literally owns a Jack skin. That is his skin, guys.
He plays Jack very well.
That is SK motherfucking T Impact skin. You know, like so. And I've been saying it all year long. They actually did break it out at one point for like the last 2 years. I want to see Impact very rarely thrown on strong side, just as if they need it as a mindfuck and a way to change momentum. Because I know he can do it, and I know he still has the hands to do it because I've seen him do it.
He can.
You know, it's like so. Yeah, I want to see the picks like that time to time. But overall, I mean, Impact. If I'm going to like name like my three biggest favorite players of all time, Impact, Huni. And I don't know who's the third, but they're probably my two favorite. I fucking love them. They're like the Korean top laners. No, I'm not a peanut guy as much as some other fans.
I mean, are you talking about just mainly in LCS or just overall?
Any region.
Okay.
I just really love them. I just love the way they play the game. Two very different styled top laners, and I just find them really fun. And so it's like, I don't know, I love them. I love them both.
What do you think about 100 Thieves, actually?
I think they're incredibly, incredibly overrated, and they are not going to make
Whoa, that is the hottest take. Whoa.
Now, if 100 Thieves wins Worlds, contact me. I'll gift you $20. All right.
I want $1,000 in pesos.
Sure, they're not going to do it. Sure,
I'm too poor. So,
they're not going to do it. So, sure.
What if 100 Thieves? Okay. What if 100 Thieves actually makes it to the finals of this summer split and they still lose?
If they make it to the finals, I would be incredibly shocked. But if they do, if there's a world in that they make it, I don't think they're going to win. I don't think their team is nearly consistent enough. I honestly think their bot side has looked I think their jungle has looked I think everything's looked and I think they're just enough, but they're not inting. That's the difference. 100 Thieves is not inting.
And the player skill level just outmatches anyone on the bottom.
And so it's like, so they're not inting away games the way that TL has in a couple of their games. But then they're able to overcome it with some skill gaps. But they're keeping the games relatively even and just out farming and outpacing them and then outscaling. So like that's where the 100 Thieves wins are coming from.
People brought up the Akali game someday had against Immortals. Guys, anyone wins against Immortals. Anyone on this earth. Because there was someone on Twitter, he brought up 100 Thieves games a lot, and he brings up the Immortals one. I'm like, dude, come on, Immortals is really bad.
They were really like, oh my god, they beat Immortals. What? They're no longer fucking no longer have 0 wins. It's like, Jesus fuck, that's an accomplishment.
I really think the 3 Worlds candidates are going to be EG, TL, and C9, and I really don't think there's many teams that can contest. I think really the only one that I can, the only tune that I can reasonably see contesting that is, I hate to say it, but 100 Thieves, and I'm going to throw in my wild card of Golden Guardians because they really give me clutch vibes.
You know,
what about Team Liquid?
I said they make it. Yeah.
How do you feel about their team right now? Because it feels like
they're shaky. But like
I feel like Blippo and Bjergsen don't agree on how to play the game. So the coaching staff are like, "Can you guys just play through bot?" Do you not feel that way, or maybe it's just
with
me?
Super teams. But
yes,
no. I think Blippo. I think Blippo's weird because I think he is a team player, but he also he's willing to drop his ego at points and play like weird weak side picks. But I think there is also a part of him that really wants to kind of play a more carry style,
like he did that old game.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me. I don't know really how I feel about TL right now. I just feel like their individual talent will carry through. I think Core Hans has been really disappointing to me. Like I think they've been not a fun bot lane to watch at all. I don't know, man. I feel like they're slumping, but I think they're gonna figure it out. I think
this team should be a lot better.
They should, but I mean, they're also only 5-2, and so it's like, they're like
still top 3 right now.
Yeah, they dropped 2 games, but give them some time. I have faith in the coaching staff over at TL. I think Cold's really good. I think what's his name?
Gilioto.
Yeah, thank you. I think he's really good too. So like I believe in the coaching staff at TL, and I think they're gonna figure it out because I don't know. They're too good not to.
Any other team you want to tackle before we head out?
I'm going to throw a special shout out to Golden Guardians because I keep bringing them up. I really like them. I think they're like an actual sleeper good team. I really think Blaze Olive is an amazing mid laner.
He's actually had a great year.
I think Licorice had an amazing spring split, but then they just choked away every game, which is why I'm not really high on them. But I think they've been doing better lately. I think all the individual pieces on Golden Guardians are enough to win games. I think Stixai has played really great too. I really love Pride Stalker, even if his champ pool is super whack and he hates like champions like Volibear. So I don't know. I think if there's a team that is going to upset people and make worlds, I don't think it's going to be CLG. I don't think it's going to be FlyQuest. I think it's going to be Golden Guardians or 100 Thieves.
Yeah, because CLG's been on this downward trajectory now because they were tied for first place. But I told people don't let that fool you.
Well, they can't
get Seraphine. They had a weak schedule.
Yeah, they had a weak schedule and they can't get Seraphine.
Yeah,
but they beat EG. Oh my god, guys, they beat EG.
Honestly, last split, I agree 100% you about Golden Guardians. Like last split, that was my mindset on them. I just thought like going into summer, the other teams improved enough where it wouldn't be the case this time around. I honestly predicted them missing playoffs because I thought Immortals would be decent enough to make playoff, but that didn't happen.
Same, yeah.
Because I was high on
so
Kenvi.
I was never high on Kenvi. I said it going into the split. I said I think Kenvi is the most overrated jungler in the league, and I think he's gonna choke.
That's what I try to tell him.
And I've been right. And I've
been right. That's what I try to tell him.
But he's also on Immortal, so I don't know.
Do you think was it the players around? Do you think it was the coaching staff and the players around him giving the directions to actually
100
be
Thieves
good?
is a great organization to be part in. There's a reason there's so many teams from 100 Thieves A and 100 Thieves Next that are going to be in the LCS. Even Instinct coming up is another example of another player that's going to be there. But that being said, I mean, I think, yeah, they do a great job coaching over there. They surround themselves with, smart, good players. But Kenvi clearly was good. And to discredit him, all that is a little bit of a stretch. I just don't know if he is at the level that is needed to be in the LCS. Frankly, I'm a lot more bullish on a player like Will than I am of Kenvi. And I think if Kenvi came in like a year ago, I'd be a lot more bullish on him. But it's not a year ago. We live in the reality of now. So I'm just not as I'm not.
Well, people don't understand that the whole thing with Kenvi, he himself is not playing good. He himself actually has been running it down very hard.
Yes, but I feel like Immortals just sucks the soul out of you.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Listen, there's been like 15 players from Academy System that I hyped up, and they turned out as I predicted, even contracts this year. All right, and then I get one wrong, and this guy above me is like, you said Kenvi was great.
I have to rub it in his face. I have to.
Good, yeah, rub it in, please.
I mean, listen, he has literally nothing to work with. It's Immortals.
And then the last thing I'll talk about today is Cloud9. Obviously, I'm a Cloud9 fan here. I want to see more consistency out of them now moving forward. We know they have more scrims now. The problem with them is they didn't have enough scrims with Sven and Berserker before because of those visa issues, getting the players in. They should now be on the level of they should have enough scrims in and a week off to now start racking up some of these wins now.
Yeah, they have no.
They lost to FlyQuest, and that loss to FlyQuest was not just a bad draft because it's a bad draft. They actually legitimately just lost to FlyQuest.
I didn't watch that game. I'll be honest. I was on vacation, so I missed that game.
You don't need to watch it. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I saw that they lost, and I was like, "Oh, that happened." Like I missed all the Sunday games, so like I am missing one game. Yeah, so
you were trying to watch Immortals versus 100 Thieves to round out your vacation?
Yeah, honestly, no. I'd rather just get drunk in the lounge in the airport than watch those games. Honestly, I really should have put TSM on if I was in an airport.
At least you have drama.
Crash.
At least you have drama. At least you be a spicy, interesting decision on our roster.
That would just like cause the pilot to just
crash the plane. Yeah,
into the ocean or have everybody.
He just crashes it into the TSM headquarters.
Yeah, that or just have everybody then start drinking, and it'll be another plane ride from hell situation.
Well, guys, that wraps it up. So I told you guys if we got the guests like Mr. TGH, then we could obviously have another episode. But yeah, man, can't wait to have you on potentially next week if you want. If you want to,
I'm down.
Show up your prediction. Yeah, could you come back next week and go like, "Damn, EG went 2-0-2. I was wrong. Danny is the worst ADC."
I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and hey, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. You can't get them all right.
But I was definitely wrong about Raker, but I didn't even watch the guy in like the European League. I just like I took everyone's advice because I thought, okay, this guy was rumored to get to replace Humanoid in the off season. You know what? I'll take their advice one time. They're wrong about like Dan and
everything
and tanks, but I'll trust them this one time. And
it's funny. The more hyped up someone is, they tend to perform worse.
That is true. Yeah, it's better when you don't have such high expectations. It seems like a player performs better.
Yeah, Unforgiven
actually has been good.
Danny,
Flackid.
Flackid. Like I think a lot of people didn't expect G2 to be that great this year. Yeah, I mean,
those people were morons, but
that's pretty mean.
Oh yeah, Target Moss easily was going to be a top 2 support if they actually watched him.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's it for this week. I have to get out of here. I got some hefty life stuff to take care of right now.
I got to eat because I'm hungry. But
same here. All right, guys. See you guys later.
See ya.
Guys. Peace out.